Francisca never imagined she'd find herself at the launch party of her best friend, the textbook. The hotter crowd wasn't her scene. She preferred the company of her designs and fabric over small talk with strangers. She had shut the door on romance long ago, and her focus had turned sharply towards her career in fashion. The ghost of 5 past relationships lingered in her heart, each breakup leaving scars she was unwilling to revisit. Charles wasn't keen on parties either, especially after his recent breakup. He had thrown himself into his work as a journalist, chasing stories to avoid his own. But there he was, supporting a friend, sipping a glass of wine, and a half-heartedly engaging in conversation. He noticed Francisca almost immediately, a striking, reserved woman, her eyes distant yet powerful, as if she was lost in her own world. For reasons he couldn't explain, he was drawn to her. When they were introduced, their conversation was brief and polite. She was cool and distant, brushing him off with practiced ease. Yet, Charles couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her than the hard exterior she wore. And for the first time in months, he found himself curious about someone again. A week later, fate threw them together again at a professional workshop on storytelling. As a fashion designer, Francisca found inspiration in stories and signed up on a whim. Charles was there to cover the event for a feature article. When they recognized each other, a shared look of mild surprise passed between them, and they ended up sitting together. Francisca's barriers were still up, yet she felt the warmth of Charles' gaze, as if he saw something no one else had. Over the course of the workshop, they exchanged subtle glances and even a few unguided laughs. By the end of the day, they found themselves at a nearby cave, sharing coffee and stories from their lives. For the first time in a long while, Francisca felt comfortable around the man. Still, she reminded herself it's just a coffee. But for Charles, it wasn't just coffee. It was a moment, a spark he hadn't felt since before his last breakup. Francisca had an elegance that captivated him, but her guidedness was unmistakable. He wondered what kind of heartbreak lay behind her eyes. Over the next few weeks, Charles and Francisca crossed paths again and again. Their conversation grew deeper, their worlds subtly lowering with each exchange. Francisca learned that Charles had his own painful past. She sensed his vulnerability, recognizing echoes of her own struggles. Yet, just as she had started to feel safe, doubts would creep in. Doubts that whispered she was better off alone, that she'd only be hurt again. One evening, Charles invited her to a small art exhibition. They wandered through paintings and sculptures, talking about the hidden meanings in each piece. There, amidst the art, Charles opened up to her about his own heartbreak. He shared how he had been left unexpectedly, blindsided by someone he thought was the one. Francisca listened, feeling a strange comfort in knowing that she wasn't the only one still haunted by love scare. She found herself smiling at his jokes, warming to his steady presence, but the one frightened her too. Could she really trust him? Could she trust herself to make the right choice this time? Francisca tried to pull away as the week went on, convincing herself it was safer, but Charles, noticing her retreat, didn't let her slip away so easily. He respected her boundaries, yet he was persistent, gently reminding her of the connection they shared. There was a part of her that wanted to let go, to trust him, to let herself feel again. But each time, she would remember the pain of her past, the heartbreak that had left her so weary. One evening, after a small misunderstanding, she laughed out at him, venting her frustration and fear. She told him she couldn't go through another heartbreak and that she wasn't the woman he wanted her to be. Charles listened patiently, hurt but understanding, and simply said, "I'm here when you're ready, Francisca. I'm not going anywhere." His words echoed in her mind long after he'd left. Could it be that he truly cared? Was it possible he wouldn't hurt her as the others had? Over the time, Charles' quiet patience and kindness met Francisca's defenses. She began to open up, sharing stories of her past loves and losses, her fears of never being enough, of always ending up alone. Each time, he listened without judgment, his presence a balm to her wounds. Slowly, Francisca realized she could trust him, not because he promised he'd never hurt her, but because he understood what it meant to carry heartbreaks and still hope. They spent more time together, and the little moments, an evening walk, a shared meal, a laugh over coffee, became the foundation of something solid. For once, Francisca found herself daring to believe in love again, daring to rewrite her story. One evening, as they watched the sunset, Charles took her hand and said, "We don't have to be perfect to make this work. Let's just try. No more, no less." In that quiet moment, with her heart full yet peaceful, Francisca realized she was finally ready to love again. Years later, as they sit side by side, their fingers intertwined, Charles and Francisca smiles, knowing they have found something rare, a love shaped by patience, honesty, and two broken hearts willing to try again.